Hello. So today I will be presenting the Aztec Empire and the conquest of their civilization. Before we get started, I would like to give a bit of a background on the Aztec Empire. So this was an empire that was built entirely on water, on a city called Tenochtitlan, and it was a city so advanced that Europeans literally thought that they were hallucinating when they came across the city. It was a city unlike anything they had ever seen. It was bigger, more efficient than London, Madrid, or Paris at the time. And I'm now going to show you and take you into the rise and fall of this civilization. Okay, to begin with, the rise of the Aztecs. So the Aztecs actually didn't start off as rulers. They actually began as a wandering tribe searching for a home in the Valley of Mexico. They believed their god would guide them to the right place and that the sign would be an eagle on a cactus eating a snake. It sounds something like something mythical, but it's actually a symbol that's used on the Mexican flag today. So when they saw this exact vision on a tiny little swampy island in Lake Texcoco, they took it as a sign of destiny. No other tribes wanted that piece of land either. It was wet, muddy, kind of like a marsh. But the Aztecs didn't care. They took their sign literal and they turned the worst land into one of the best cities in the world. Okay, so moving on to Tenochtitlan, a city beyond its time. So here you can see that there's a lot of technology. There's pyramids, there's water, there's canals. Everything is so clean and organized. The Aztecs had actually built a lot of floating gardens that produced tons of food, which is very convenient considering that they had their water. And they built canals like the city of Venice, causeways that connected them to the mainland, and temples that towered over the city. They also had aqueducts that carried fresh water from the mountains. And around its peak, I would say that the population was around 200,000 people, making it one of the largest in the world. Spanish soldiers, it's been said that Spanish soldiers have even written before that it's one of the most beautiful cities they had ever encountered. And for most, it was peak civilization. Okay, so moving on to Aztec society and culture. Um, it was a very structured society. They were extremely organized. Every child went to school, every boy and girl, which was something that Europe didn't have at the time. Every single civilian had a specific role. They had nobles, priests, warriors, merchants, artisans, farmers, and rulers. Um, and above everything was religion. Religion shaped everything. So here we can see that they are performing human sacrifices, and there's blood, and it just looks very violent. And it's even been portrayed in history books that it was a very violent thing for them to do, and it was involuntary, but actually it was the opposite. It wasn't just random violence. Um, they knew it was very intentional. Actually, it was about balance. It was about renewal and honoring the gods who they believed held the universe together. Um, Majority of their rituals had included sacrifices, voluntary sacrifices, which Europeans it was taboo for Europeans because they didn't understand it. So it threw them off, and when they witnessed it in person, um, they they essentially kind of like hated them for it because it was something that they didn't understand. But anybody would think the same. Okay, moving on to when Spain arrived in 1519. So Hernan Cortez arrived in 1519. He landed on the coast of Mexico. He actually wasn't even supposed to be there. He disobeyed Spanish orders. Um, he was originally in Cuba at the time, but when he heard of this like wealthy, rich land, in the center of a valley on water, he knew it was his chance to redeem himself and to rise his status. So he made way to Tenochtitlan, destroyed his boat so that his men wouldn't leave, and he just committed. Okay, first contact. So eventually, Hernan Cortez meets Moctezuma, which was the emperor the Aztec emperor. Um, the reason here you can see that there's an amicable meeting. You could see that Moctezuma is welcoming and he and the Spanish with open arms, and this is because he believed that Hernan Cortez was tied to a prophecy. And another theory also is that he may have welcomed them like amicably because obviously they're foreigners and they arrived in these giant big boats and shiny armor. So he didn't obviously want to attack first without understanding the enemy or learning who the enemy was. I'm sorry. Okay, so over time, tensions rise, and this is because Cortez takes Moctezuma and he holds him hostage in his own palace. This was like a power move and a misunderstanding. This was because the Spanish misread the Aztec customs, and then the Aztecs misread the Spanish aggression. So over time, tension built day by day. Moving on to La Noche Triste. So this was when the Aztecs decided to fight back because they had enough of the Spanish. And this was so essentially they rebelled and they entrapped the Spanish inside of the city. Cortez and his men tried to escape at night through the causeways, but it was raining, it was dark and chaotic, and many of the Spaniards had drowned because they were carrying stolen gold, which is weighing down on their bodies, and it was just too much. So there were many casualties, and because of this, it's called La Noche Triste. So what led to the downfall of the Aztec Empire was smallpox. There was a smallpox outbreak that was caused by the arrival of the Spanish. So when the Spanish came, they brought smallpox with them. Um, and it spread through Tenochtitlan like wildfire. Like wildfire, the Aztecs had no immunity to it, and if you ever had smallpox before, you know that once you get smallpox, like you're immune to it for life after you get sick from it the first time. But because it was foreign to them, it just wiped them out. Similar to like the bubonic plague in Europe, it killed a third of its population. Here, it actually killed 40 to 60% of the population, and it took out many leaders and warriors with them. And because of this, there was a decline in population, and a lot of the roles were unfulfilled, and it just weakened the empire overall. Okay, so then happened the siege of Tenochtitlan. So when Hernan Cortez arrived initially in 1519, obviously they were defeated, and he came back in 1521, which was the fall of the Aztec Empire. The way that this came to be was when Hernan Cortez came back, he came back and made allies with other indigenous tribes that hated the the Aztecs because of their dominance and entitlement, and so they saw this as an opportunity for revenge. Together, they surrounded the city of Tenochtitlan. They cut up the food, the water, and they destroyed the causeways back to the mainland. So essentially, like this went on for months, and in August of 1521, the city fell and it was destroyed, and the Spanish went on to create Mexico City on its ruins. Here you can also see too that they captured Cuauhtemoc, and they murdered him. Here in the water, you can see the Aztecs and the Spanish rising above them. It was just a lot of death. However, the Aztec Empire still prevails today. They are survived by their descendants, who are the Nahua people. Um, they have like they still speak their language. Um, and I think it's probably 1.5 million people in Mexico still speak the indigenous language. Um, their legacy also carries on over in food. They have it's carried on in maize, tomatoes, and even chocolate. Um, so as well as the symbol that's on the Mexican flag too. It's tied back to the Aztec roots, again, the prophecy. So although the civilization fell and the people died, um, their descendants survived, the culture survived, and so did their identity. And you can even still see Aztec print is very, very much popular in fashion today as well. But yes, this is the rise and fall of the Aztec Empire.